everyone, and welcome to our third episode of the AHP Preceptorship Podcast. And the really exciting thing is today we are face to face with our wonderful preceptees. And for those of you that are listening and maybe not watching, we have party rings with us and some hobnobs. So if you hear some munching, because it's the biscuits.
Got to keep those snacks going.
Okay, amazing. So let's get started. So if you guys could introduce yourself, your profession, like when and where you qualified, all those bits and bobs. So Ruthie, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So I'm Ruthie, and I'm an occupational therapist, and I qualified as an OT almost 3 years ago, I think. No. Yes, almost 3 years ago, and it was in Canterbury, at Canterbury Christchurch University, so yeah.
Nice. I'm Katy, I'm an occupational therapist, and funnily enough, I actually graduate tomorrow.
Congratulations!
Thank you. It feels so weird because I've had the job since September, so I work for the intensive home treatment team with Oxleas. So I've been doing that since September, qualified in August, and then I graduate tomorrow from Brighton Uni. So
Exciting!
yeah, so fingers crossed it all goes. Thank you. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, it's so nice to celebrate on a graduation day with a qualification. And I know it was disrupted for so many people because of COVID, so I'm so pleased that you get that experience of throwing your cap up.
Well, apparently, technically you can't, I've been told. Not in front, outside the venue, but we'll find a way to get the shot.
You've got to.
Yeah, exactly.
It feels like a rite of passage when you graduate, that you've got to,
It's your last night being a rebel, you just need
absolutely.
to screw the rules.
Yeah.
You're a professional now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really quite, exactly right. Those days are behind me now. But I'm very looking forward to it. So
will it be, sorry, I'm just going to ask, will it be near the Brighton Pavilion?
No,
that's a
sadly
shame.
not. We're, I think it's the Brighton Centre, but it's near the seafront and it's meant to be sunny tomorrow. So we take what we can, our wins where we can.
Oh, well, enjoy it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, really looking forward to it.
So you're both occupational therapists.
Yes.
It'd be really interesting to know what kind of led you to being OTs. What, how did you find out about the role and what made you think that's what I would like to do as a career?
So, for me, I find mine's not the most exciting story, but I qualified, I did my psychology degree back in 2016, and like most people who do a psychology degree, I was like, I'm going to be a psychologist, I'm going to go into clinical psychology, that's going to be my life, and then qualified, realised it wasn't sort of my bag, but I wanted to do something mental health, but just didn't know what that could be. So I spent years doing loads of different mini jobs. And then it wasn't until, funny enough, and this is full honesty here, I was at the pub with a friend and I bumped into a long friend I hadn't seen in ages. And she said, "Oh, hi, how are you? I'm studying to be an occupational therapist." And I'd never heard of it before. And that was only in 2020, because that's when I started doing my master's for it. So I thought it was occupational health. So I was a bit like, I was like, oh, lovely, that sounds really fun.
It's such a common misconception.
It
isn't it?
really
But then
is.
Did you, I suppose, do some research and actually find out the layers that OTs are involved with?
And she explained all what OT was. So she was doing physical health OT. And it sounds really cliche, but honestly, in that moment, in that pub, it was like the lights, like the heavens opened and you're like, oh, this is what I've always wanted to be, but I never knew what it was. So then as soon as I spoke to her, I managed to get work experience at Queen Mary's Hospital, did that for a couple of weeks, and then saw Brighton was doing the Masters and thought, well, might as well try a Masters, let's see how it goes, and then we're here.
That's
so as soon as I found out, it just all sort of snowballed on after that.
I really believe that things happen for a reason. You bumped into that old friend for a reason.
Yes.
The lights went on. You were like, this is me.
Literally.
Everything fell into place.
Exactly.
And you said that your story wasn't interesting. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's meant to be.
Yeah, it's
It
meant
was.
to
It was
be.
in the stars. What about yourself? How did you get into it?
Yeah, so similar in terms of a bit of a, oh my gosh, this is it, this makes sense moment. So yeah, I was living abroad at the time when I was in high school, and I just remember always wanting to help people, always wanting to do something practical. I'm not an office job kind of girl, and yeah, I just didn't really know what that looked like. And yeah, so in the country I was living in, OT, occupational therapy, wasn't really spoken about, and even now it's still in its sort of initial stages really. So yeah, when I heard about it and I realised it was a very practical, loving, holistic occupation to have, I just said that's the one for me. So it was about GCSE time, and ever since I've just been set on being an OT.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was like from very early on as well.
Very early.
That's great.
I sort of just, said yes to OT in year 10. I was like, let's just look into this, and then didn't turn back.
I was very similar in that respect. Like, I didn't want to do an office job. I was like, I don't want to be just sitting by a desk and just not knowing, and like going to uni and doing a subject and then like not knowing what to do from that. I wanted to do something really practical and
like
could use my
vocational,
skills, and something that's never going to go away. It's always going to be there.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I was very similar in that respect. So it's great that you had that so early on as well. That passion was there.
Yeah, I think it's a great, I mean, of course, we're always going to advocate for OT, but it is a great profession, It's very, I think it's exciting to sort of see a person in whatever area that may be, and just find ways to help them sort of live the most
meaningful life to them,
possible.
absolutely.
A fulfilling life.
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
I think that's something that OTs really do, is they really help people with fulfilment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's right. And there's just so much variety to it, which I love. I think that's probably what I didn't quite get out of with the psychology route. Of course, there's so much variety to that, but you know, you can do stroke down to paediatrics. You can even work for the fire service as an OT. Like, you can go anywhere really with it, which that's what excites me. So
lifespan as well.
Yeah.
Sort of working with babies up to end of life care. There's
Exactly.
just mental health, physical health. It's
absolutely
just
a
a world
specialism for everyone, isn't there?
Yes.
Exactly.
What your interest is.
That's right. Completely.
Amazing, I love those stories. Love hearing that. Okay, so we'd love to hear a little bit about why you chose to come and work at Oxleas, and then a little bit about, like, had you heard of preceptorship before? Did you know that Oxleas had a preceptorship programme in place? So, Ruthie?
So Oxleas really, sound like I'm making it up, but really it stood out to me a lot. So, I was just spent the last year out of work. We were living out of the country. So from afar, I was racking the internet to find jobs in the London area. And as I just kept going through, I knew I wanted to go back to a Band 5 rotation just for the experience, the options, build my confidence back up. And as I was going through the list, Oxleas really, really stood out to me. And it's completely been fulfilled, really, everything I thought about it. I think just that sense, particularly as an AHP, of family. Sounds so corny, but really, it really truly feels like a professional family that will just support you no matter what stage you're at. And I guess that sort of leads into the preceptorship as well. It's been a huge reason why I felt so at home, so comfortable being at Oxleas. And I've worked in previous trusts before, and Oxleas, it's a winner for me. I love it. So
I know what you mean about the family. I've worked in Oxleas now. This is going into my 12th year.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And we both started as Band 5s.
We both started as Band 5s in Oxleas.
Did you know each other as Band 5s?
No, we met when we were in more senior
Band 7.
Band 7
Nice.
clinical roles, didn't we? We got involved in the original, the OG.
The OG
AHP's day.
Yeah.
That's when we kind of our paths
Amazing.
crossed. And then, not that this podcast is about us, but then our paths crossed again when I then went into a patient safety role, and our paths crossed because we had a patient who was going to coroner's court, so I was writing the report, and Felicity had input, and I just needed to make sure that I had all of Felicity's notes, which were perfect, so she didn't need to come to the court to go onto the stand. So our paths crossed several times, and you were a preceptor when Anna and I were setting up the preceptorship back in 2018, and you came to the training and you stayed behind and had a chat, and then kind of ever since then everything, the ball stopped running, and then when the post went full time, of course Felicity got the job.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we started as band fives, and we've, I guess, loved working here, and I've never felt the need to kind of explore anywhere else, because I have felt that sense of support even before preceptorship, because we started when preceptorship wasn't around.
It's definitely a family.
It felt like a family. It felt like you were really supported. Teams and development as well. Like, we were able to develop through the banding as well.
That's definitely a huge thing as well that actually stood out to me about Oxleas is, and now that I've actually met different professionals, they're in a similar position to you guys, where they started off as a band 5, and then now they're higher up, and there's so much opportunity to stay within the trust and to sort of try out different positions.
So I guess with you, Katy, like why did you choose Oxleas and the same thing? Did you know about the preceptorship, or was that one of the things that maybe you looked out for when you were applying for jobs, anything like that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I, funnily enough, was recommended to go for, so in my last placement at uni, my lovely educator, I had 2 interview options, and one of them, and when we were looking, we saw Oxleas, and I just asked for his opinion. We were going through practice questions and stuff, and this was when he turned around and said, go to the interviews and see, but he recommended Oxleas because he'd worked for the trust before. So that already made me think, okay, well, I really like my educator. He's great at what he does. If he gives that big tick, then that makes you feel a bit more confident. So I'm like, great, now go for it. And when I really looked, what I loved was, so I'm on the band 5 rotation post, and there was so much variety and options on this rotation, more than a lot of the others had offered. And I know it's a community mental health trust, but you've even got options for neuro in there, and it just ticked, because I'm not sure where I want to specialise yet. The variety Oxleas offered, I thought this is fantastic. And with his all clear sort of, recommending Oxleas, I was quite nervous for the interview actually, because I felt like, I really want this now. It's got such a good stead. And when I then looked into it again, when I had the interview, I was told about the preceptorship, and I didn't actually know much about what a preceptorship was until when I left my placement and then went back to uni. They then told us about it, but by that point I'd already got the job at Oxleas. So I was very happy when uni were talking about how good preceptorships were, and I was like, oh, thank goodness, Oxleas has one. This is a good stead, great. And I liked that idea because I'm one of those, perhaps because it felt like such a leap going from a student to a newly qualified. I liked the idea of having a support system in place where it's not like they're holding your hand along the way, because you do have that freedom to go out and be a qualified professional, but it is quite a leap. And so having that preceptorship in place of, like with yourself, Ruthie, everyone in the same position, you can chat to each other about it, you can, going through, I know we'll go into this later, but going through the competencies, you just feel you have more of a structure, as opposed to just, you've left uni, now you're an OT, band 5, this is your role, and then you're thinking, wow, like that's a lot from placement. You're thinking, where do I go with this? So the preceptorship was that stepping stone, which genuinely has been, I've been speaking to friends who haven't got a preceptorship offered to them at different trusts, nowhere near in London. And they're, you know, I think they would really have benefited from one, and just their experience of not having it just sounds quite more of a challenge, more obstacles to overcome. So yeah, I'm very, very privileged, I guess, that we actually have it. And obviously you guys and everyone in the preceptorship team just make you feel so at home and welcome that it just feels like a natural progression into becoming hopefully band 6, 7 and wherever it takes me.
Yeah, it's that journey of lifelong learning, as we like to say.
Literally, that's right.
So yeah, no, that it's really interesting to, you know, how you say like having those emotions of it is a big leap when you qualify, so it is nice to have that structure. And you know, you were saying that this is your first role post-qualifying, and what a lovely position to be in, also that you went back to uni after placement and you knew you had a job to go into and it was a job you wanted. So that's really great. But going back to you, Ruthie, sorry, you were saying that, you know, you'd worked and then you'd gone abroad and then you were coming back. So what was your first role post-qualifying? Was it similar to what you've got now? And did you have a preceptorship at your first post?
Yeah, so the role I'm in now is a complete 180 from where I started. So after graduating and qualifying, I worked still on a band 5 rotation. The first rotation was in social services, so community physical health, more sort of adults, so 18 and above, more older adults really. And then the second half of that year was on a hyperacute stroke ward, so inpatient stroke, which, I absolutely loved. But stroke, whether through placement or that period of working, has been my main area really. So now I'm in forensic learning disabilities and autism. It's very different.
Yeah, you're really getting a mixture there, aren't you?
Yeah, again, benefit of a band 5 rotation really. So where I was working previously, they did have a preceptorship programme. I found it a little bit more tricky when I was there. I think sort of what you were saying, Katie, I didn't fully understand what a preceptorship course was at the start. I was a bit like a deer in headlights. Oh my gosh, I'm not a student anymore, I'm a professional. I can't hide behind my placement educator.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think taking on this preceptorship thing almost felt like there's this other pressure when actually I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm figuring out what even is occupational therapy. What am I doing?
It's like your professional identity you're figuring out, isn't it? Like,
that's exactly
what's my role within the team?
It's
and
that
then
imposter
what is
syndrome.
this preceptorship thing that nobody's spoken to me about?
Exactly. And I think that it was probably similar to you mentioned at university, sort of at the last part of uni. But again, taking in what is preceptorship, how will it affect my professional identity, and how can I sort of go forward with preceptorship in a way that will benefit me. It was also COVID time as well, so I think that was the main reason why I struggled on the preceptorship course that I was at. It was all, I mean, it's online now, which is fab, but I think there felt like a little bit of a disconnect. Others may have absolutely loved it. Where I was at in my life, I didn't feel part of the group. Again, COVID, don't even need to explain what that was like. So that
it wasn't the right fit for you at the time.
Was exactly.
Was it just AHPs on that
It
preceptorship
was,
as well?
Yeah, it was, which was really helpful to learn a bit more about what other professions do. But then sort of jumping forward to this preceptorship here, I was a bit blown away because I'd had a picture in my mind of what preceptorship was. So coming here and having that first one-to-one meeting with you, Hannah, I just really got so overly excited. I was like, this is amazing. All the exclamation marks, all the smiley faces. Again, it completely adds to this feeling that Oxleas has of family, and I think we'll get onto it a bit later, but the Band 5, even having that support group there, knowing that we really can come and talk to you guys anytime. I mean, me and Katy are on the same rotation, so having met you and loads of the others as well, it's been
really
really,
nice.
really helpful.
It's nice when you can meet people on the same rotation as you, because you get to know a bit about the team, a bit about the work, you know, like what's the kind of setting like, and it's nice that, you know, within preceptorship, actually you then strengthen relationships not only with other professions but your own profession as well. So.
Which I think as a Band 5, it adds to that professional identity. So it's not just you figuring out what on earth is OT, what am I doing? It's right, this is what you've got to say, this is what you've got to say, and sort of,
paints a better picture, doesn't it? You're like, oh, right, okay. You don't feel like you've got to know all the answers on your own, because everyone else brings their own answers and ideas to it. So it just makes it feel much more manageable when you qualify.
You all go through imposter syndrome, but sometimes it's at different stages, so you can all support
still
one
there.
another.
I'm still there.
You get imposter syndrome, honestly, in every job you go into, so I wouldn't worry.
We still even get it now.
Yeah, it's a really normal feeling, but you don't necessarily know that it's a normal feeling. And, you know, especially with Oxleas being a community trust, as we've mentioned, sometimes you can be quite isolated. You may be the only Band 5 in your team, so you might be thinking, I'm feeling this emotion, is it just me? So it's reassuring, I think, with the preceptorship that you actually get to realise that everybody's experiencing the same thing.
And can I just say, when we did one of the meetings that we have that every month, that preceptorship teaching meeting, you covered on there, it was imposter syndrome, and it was when you did one of the polls, how many of you feel imposter syndrome? And I'm always open and honest, and then on those I was like, yeah, I do. And I was thinking, oh, well, there might be people who are further along in their preceptorship, so probably going to say no at this point. And I can't tell you how reassuring it was when loads of people had said, yeah, I do. And then you spoke about it in a really open and honest way. And it just felt like that pressure was taken off my shoulders, because everyone's like, yeah, we all feel that. That's why having these meetings every month is lovely. You can all chat and laugh about it, share the, you know, some of the angst that you might have. And that's when you're going again with the family. You just feel so less alone with what you're carrying when you're thinking, oh gosh, am I the only one who's thinking they're out their depth? When everyone else says the same, you can just breathe. And you're like, okay, fine. I know I'm on the right track then. If everyone's feeling it, then you've got to be on the right track somewhere.
And I think you can learn a lot more. I've found that I've learnt so much more about this very new setting that I'm in because I've been able to talk to the other Band 5s and almost just breathe, lower those levels in my brain that are all stressed and cortisol levels, whatever it is, I don't know. But it almost feels like those levels of just angst are brought down, and now I can learn and I can be a much more productive and teachable professional.
Completely agree.
Yeah, because if you're stressed and if you're feeling overwhelmed, you actually can't absorb much information, can you? And you can't, you know, do your role properly, I guess, in a way, because you can't function properly sometimes when you're overly stressed. And it's just, I think the thing that's kind of sticking out there, I know we're going to go on to like the preceptorship and your favourite bits, but it's like having that safe space, isn't it? That's what we really love to hear from you guys, is that you can feel really comfortable in those meetings, even though some of the meetings are pretty large. Like, you know, we're going up to 50 preceptees virtually sometimes, and that can be quite overwhelming to, like, you know, talk in those meetings or write something in the chat because you don't know what other people are thinking. So we're so happy that people are saying, you know, it's a really safe space, we feel really comfortable, and that's why we're so open and honest about our experiences, because we want other people to be able to, you know, talk about their experiences as well. So
I think it's also good that we're open and honest about our experiences, because it helps keep it at the forefront of our minds as well. You know, about, you know, these, because it is easy to forget how you felt at first. So actually, I really like that when we are reflective, and that actually it relates exactly to emotions that others are feeling, and it's just really good to kind of keep that at the forefront of our mind as well.
So I guess that's kind of following on. So what were the main challenges that you had starting as newly qualified? I know you've kind of touched on a few of them, feeling quite overwhelmed, your professional identity. Is there anything else that you'd add to those in terms of your challenges?
I would say for myself, so from my understanding, I am the first Band 5 OT in my team. And when I started, my supervisor was just finishing the end of her rotation, so she was ready to rotate on. So I had her for a couple of weeks, and then I had now my supervisor now. So I guess the challenge there was a little bit, it was trying to find my feet of what a Band 5 offers, because it's all Band 6s and up in the team. Well, I say the qualified are all Band 6 and up. So it was just trying to establish, A, what I could offer as a Band 5, B, like you were just saying, what even OT is in this team's role, because it's so varied. You've got to know where you're funneling down what OT offers in there. And, you know, having a sort of meeting a supervisor who then was going to leave, and having a brand new supervisor coming in who was very new to the team. Initially, I thought it was going to be I thought it was such unfortunate timing, because I felt like I needed someone stable, I guess, there to sort of hold my hand for those initial months, because like, I'm just brand new to this. But actually, it turned out to be really nice, because where my now supervisor, where he then rotated in and was very new, we both sort of muddled in together at finding what OT brings, and that actually was quite a lot of fun. We're still doing it now, because it just takes almost that hierarchy out, where we both are new to the team, finding out what OT brings, and it has actually worked. So as much as I guess what I'm trying to say is, as much as it was a challenge to begin with, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Like, I don't know what this means, and all of this stuff. Actually, when you just push through it and just persevere and actually see the benefits it brings, we've had such a good time. And we've actually, not to go off on a tangent, but we're going to start a new group in the team that we've got, and it just, what looks like it's going to be a negative and a big challenge where you're thinking, oh my goodness, actually at the other end of it, now I've come through it, it's such a blessing in a cliche way. I know that is so cliche, but that was my challenge, and actually it's helped me for the best, I'd say.
But I think that's a really important thing with challenges, is when you find resilience within a challenge, and you can reframe a challenge into a real learning opportunity.
Yes.
And that's, a really good thing, that, an outcome from a challenge, to get that and build resilience.
Yeah.
And that really helps with your professional identity as well. So it's really
exactly.
nice to hear that you can reframe that as a learning opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
And you, Ruthie, but is there any other challenges, I guess, that you wanted to add to what Katy said?
I think, not to completely repeat everything you've said, but that's...
It's nice to know you're similar then. That's good.
We could do a poll, it'd be 100% with us. But really it's very, very similar in terms of being... So they've never had a Band 5 in the team I'm in, so it's a fairly new team. They've been running now about 3-4ish years. And it's a very specialist team, and community based. So again, not in terms of hierarchy, but just to give a sense of experience and specialism. It's sort of Band 7 going up, and as a Band 5, having been out of work for the past year, I definitely sort of came in and was like, who even am I? What am I doing? How do I go forward? And really it was quite tricky trying to, and I'm still on a journey with it, trying to pave the way for what a Band 5 looks like. But it's been really, again, really positive actually in the long run. I think I did speak to you, Katy, at our Band 5 support group, and I think even in terms of understanding more in the community, sort of that CCG and all these complex community,
the full kind
teams.
of like the structure and
the
how
structure,
the teams
exactly.
Like interlink.
Exactly.
And the hierarchy.
It's very
of it.
confusing.
And who commissions what? What's
Commissioners,
commissioned? All of those terms that you just don't come across.
Fully. So it's a huge learning curve, and I think it can be easy to put lots of pressure on yourself to understand what all these community teams are, how did they feed into my team and our patients. But I think it's been it's been a really positive journey. I think at the start I probably didn't give myself enough grace to just have a bit of a cry, not know what you're doing, acknowledge that this is challenging, to again pave the way for future band 5s, and almost putting that pressure on yourself that you need to have it sorted by the year. I don't know if you sort of feel the same.
You feel like that's why the preceptorship's so handy, because you feel like as soon as you turn up on that first day, that I felt like they're expecting a fully qualified OT who's had like a year's worth of experience. Off you go. You just feel like that pressure that you've got to give so much to the team. At least that was me. So I completely resonate with that. So it's giving yourself that grace of, you've literally just left uni, you know, you haven't got that experience yet, you're starting it, you're at the beginning of your whole career, so that's exciting. So actually just, you guys would always say in the preceptorship meetings, which always helped me, of just take it easy, like don't, you know, your career, hopefully my career will span decades and decades, so I don't need to know all of that in those first few months or that first year. And when you take that pressure off, you actually enjoy the process more and think, oh, actually I'm going to take my time with this, because it needs time to proper consolidate in your mind, doesn't it, and understand what it all means.
And that can take years.
That's right.
Even at the end of your career, you're still learning things. You don't know everything.
So it's something we actually discuss with the preceptors as well in the training that we provide, is about the ladder of learning, and actually how it can take 2 to 3 years for somebody to start feeling like they kind of know. That imposter syndrome starts to minimise. It comes back, but that imposter syndrome starts to minimise, and you start to become aware of what you know. So you're consciously competent, and then you start to become kind of unconsciously competent. So you kind of forget what you know because you just do it.
Autopilot.
You go on to autopilot. So it takes 2 to 3 years. That's what research has found for that. That's an average. So it might take some people longer, might take some people less, but
that's why we're also like, just chill with the preceptorship as well. Like, it's 12 months, but we're like, you know, some people need like 3 months to even just settle in and just know where the kettle is. Like, know, you know, if you are community, it's like actually, because we both relocated and we were both in the community, and it's like, where does this road go to? Like, where am I? Like, we were with sat-navs, like, you know, the proper sat-navs. My manager, my manager was like, get a map. And I was like, I'm not getting a map.
I had an A to Z given to me on my first day. And I was like, don't you have a TomTom? And you couldn't get it on your phone. And I remember being in the middle of the borough that I was covering on a road, which was a dead end. I thought it was the main road. And I thought, I'm just going to cry here because I'm looking at this A to Z, and there were 3 roads in the borough with the same name, and I was 20 minutes away from where I needed to be.
Lots of tears on Dom's. Lots of tears.
I
remember just phoning my manager being like, I just can't find this house, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to cancel it.
Honestly, I don't know how you guys managed when it was just A to Z or the basic TomTom, because I go to everyone's houses, so I'd be having a breakdown. I couldn't manage.
I think we didn't know any different.
Parking, especially in Greenwich, is just figuring that out. Like, it's all so overwhelming. So that's why we're like, just don't worry about the 12 months. You can take your time. We're very flexible because everyone has different experiences, different clinical pressures, different learning styles. So, I'm glad that you're getting also that vibe from our meetings. Like, just take a breather.
You guys do that so well. You really do. Like, when we would say it behind your back and in front, like you set. I think because of your just openness, you set the tone of the meeting, and whatever vibe you guys are on, we naturally will follow. And you've nailed it.
Oh, thanks.
You can pay me later.
Lovely. Okay. So I suppose we've kind of discussed how you combated most of those challenges, but is there anything kind of expanding on the question of the challenges and how you've combated them, and you've really turned what could have been a negative into a real learning opportunity and a positive? But is there anything that you guys implement to kind of help you keep those challenges like at bay and kind of keep yourself level and controlled? Is there anything that you do that you might be able to recommend to others who maybe, you know, are just you know, going to be qualifying this year or are in a similar situation to yourself on a band 5, or it could be us. We might take these tips on.
Oh yeah. These tips on.
Is there anything that you really implement to help you overcome challenges you face? I know that that's really putting you on the spot as well.
No, I'm just sorting through my mind of, there's quite a couple actually that I hope would be of use. And for me, it's putting in those boundaries early. And for me, that was quite I always find that a little bit difficult, because you want to get on with it. You want to be a really good team player, and you want everyone to people pleasing. That's the word, exactly. But you have to start as you mean to go on. And I'm saying that because, you know, everyone's lovely. I'm not saying you have to put boundaries up because there's inappropriate people and things like that. What I'm talking about is with the workload. So for me, one of the ways I stay boundaried, and I've only gone over this a couple of times, is I leave on time. And it can be so hard, and the temptation to be like, oh, just if I give half an hour and then I can finish that. But once you start with that precedent, I found it snowballs quickly, and then it's hard to get out of that. And one of the ways so I stay boundaried is I leave on time, and I can recommend, if you can get into that habit early, that can be so helpful. Because then, and it's probably our occupational therapist side coming out now, I put things in that I just love to do, whether it's silly, playful, ridiculousness, I don't know, sort of seeing my friends to go for a pub quiz in the evening, or just doing meaningful activity that I genuinely love, that has nothing to do with work, so I can just unwind. And if I make sure I'm disciplined by going off on time, not responding to emails out of work, because that is a temptation, but I'm like, no, don't set that precedent for yourself, just do it when you're back in. I just find the work-life balance then just feels so much more enjoyable. And my job, I really enjoy my job, and I'd happily answer emails outside of work. That's not a problem, but it's just, I guess, that challenge of setting that boundary and overcoming that people pleasing. Now I've put it in place from the beginning, it just feels so easy. Like, I heard a quote at uni, and this is advice I swear by. It's that moment of discomfort initially is nothing compared to that discomfort that happens when you don't address it, and then it just goes on and on. So that initial discomfort will feel uncomfortable, but then once you've done it, it's so much easier compared to if you just let it snowball.
Because it could eventually lead to like burnout, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
And then you could be off sick. You could, you know.
Exactly. And then it gets to that point, if you've taken too much on, or you've stretched yourself too much because you want to be there for everyone, you can't be there for anyone at the end, because you've just completely burnt all your resources.
If you, it's such a healthy piece of advice.
That.
Good. No, I'm pleased.
That's
hopefully
really
that. And I just want to go to that point about not replying to emails out of working hours, because we got an email from you, I think on a Sunday, and you knew that we were going to tell you off, but you were like, no, I'm actually working today.
Exactly. Because I do the odd weekend with my role, and I was like, they're going to be thinking, why is she emailing on a Sunday? You knew
that we would have been like, why are you emailing us on a Sunday?
Yeah, exactly.
We actually said that. We looked around. We were in the office together that day, and we looked and we were like, why?
But then we were like,
as soon as we opened it, we were like, okay, we'll step down. We'll get off the horse.
I was like, I am definitely at work, guys. Please don't worry.
That's a really great piece of advice for anybody, I think. So thank you.
No, good.
And Ruthie, is there anything that you kind of implement to combat any of these challenges?
Yeah, I think for me, a big one has been logging everything that I do, whether it's just a small, I found, or I don't know, I offered this person a cup of tea and built this relationship with this professional, or just writing down those small, big, whatever achievements, a shadowing opportunity that you did, coming to chatting with you guys today. And I think, because one of the biggest challenges I've had is not recognising how much I've progressed since being in this role. I think because, again, there is this subconscious pressure that I need to hand the baton on to the next Band 5 really well, or formulate some sort of structure and pathway for this Band 5, and getting used to a new role in the first place, learning all this lingo for these different areas we work in. I've really forgotten how far I have come since August, because it's only been a few months, but you have changed a lot. There's mental health sections that you've learnt about. There's visits that you've been on. There's people that you've communicated with that maybe you would have been nervous to talk to before, and I think that's probably been the biggest, most meaningful thing that I've done to overcome challenges is loving yourself. Take a bit of time. Let's just say it. Self-love. Loving yourself, really.
Congratulating yourself, isn't it? Just being like, that, even if it's a small win, I did really well there.
It's like keeping a self-gratitude journal, by you logging that. And that's another thing, linking that back to preceptorship, because that's what we do. That's another nice thing that we like about how we have designed our preceptorship is that, as you were saying, you've come so far since August, and what we really like is that we've split that competency breakdown into, try and see if you can get these done in the first 6 months, and then the rest 7 months plus, because you forget how far you've come, and then you can literally look back, month 12, look back to things you were doing in the first month that you were completing preceptorship, and you forget how far you've progressed. And it's so nice to now have a record of that you will keep throughout your career.
Absolutely. That's the huge benefit of preceptorship is it's almost, because it's such a relaxed in terms of our meetings, but also very organised and very structured in terms of the competencies, which I know we'll probably get onto. Having that structure, it almost is like a discipline that is set in place that you have to keep sort of informing, and you have to keep feeding information into this sort of file that you're going to provide at the end of the 12 months. So having the competencies, having even just like a CPD log that you'll use as evidence, that sort of thing, that's really helped with those challenges. And
I actually want to say that the competencies, before I actually got access into the portfolio and looking at what they were, I originally was thinking, they're going to be quite big things to reach. And then you're thinking, I'm going to have that pressure on top of this new role that I now need to be hitting this alongside it. And I was starting to panic a little bit. And then when I did my first supervision with yourself, Hannah, and then with my preceptor, a lot of them I'm going through, and you're like, I'm actually already doing that. And not in a big-headed way, but you're thinking, so it gives you that confidence of, I'm actually already doing that. Why am I fretting that I'm a rubbish OT when I've already ticked that in my natural day job anyway? You're like that, and it just gives you so that achievable boost that you're like, I am actually becoming competent because I'm doing that already and didn't even think that was a competency to hit.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Your everyday work is so skilled that we forget that. Exactly. That we forget that what we are doing is multifaceted and multi-skilled. So that's another thing with preceptorship, is to actually break that down, and as you say, they're things that we want you to be using your everyday work as evidence, so that you can see how far you've progressed. So it's really nice that you felt that after your first meeting as well.
Completely.
I'm pleased.
I think it's because we're so at uni, you're competent once you do an exam, or you're competent once you finish placement and you get these ticked off. So actually with preceptorship, we're kind of reframing it a bit and just making you aware that you are competent, but you're consciously competent with the everyday work you're doing, because the work that we do every single day is like your CPD, it is your development, it is your learning, and you're not aware of that, I don't think.
No, completely.
And you are protected as a student, aren't you? You are protected by your clinical educator. So, you may feel, after the 3 years, I'm ready to do this, but actually when you go out in the real world, you're like, oh my God, why is this not getting checked up on? Why is this not getting countersigned?
You're not going to read my notes when I upload it, you're not going to sign it off. That's it.
But did you want to add? Sorry, did you?
No.
No, okay. It's really great to hear that. So obviously at Oxleas, we know that it is a community trust, and with that, there can be feelings of feeling quite isolated. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit. I think we definitely felt that because we were, in the community as well. So there is lots of lone working and going to patients' home by yourself. So it can feel quite isolating at times. And you're both in similar journeys in terms of being the first band 5s in your team, which is quite interesting. I wasn't aware of that. So obviously that can also impact that kind of feeling a bit isolated because nobody's been in that position before. So do you feel, do you kind of feel that you are isolated at times, and has preceptorship helped tackle that for you? Because that is obviously one of our major things, isn't it, is helping you feel like connected to others. But you have kind of touched on that a bit with the family and stuff. So, are you kind of feeling isolated, and is preceptorship helping?
I think at the beginning it definitely did feel isolating, not in terms of the team at all. Like, they are some of the most just amazing, wonderful colleagues I've ever had. They're so brilliant and fun and know their stuff. So, but I think in terms of, again, sort of repeating what I said, but being the only band 5 and the first band 5, I think I did feel quite isolated, just being around so many people that knew their stuff and that were, sort of specialists in their field. But I think the more I spoke with them, the more they were like, don't worry. Like, there's actually moments where I just sometimes don't know the answer to this. Or I've completely been where you are. So yes, definitely felt isolated, but also yes, 1,000,000% preceptorship has helped. Really, truly, I can't quite put it into words, the sense of like comfort that preceptorship has brought.
That's a good word, comfort.
Yeah.
I like that.
I feel like I can just breathe a bit.
That's what that is. It is like that warm, like a blanket. It is like a nice cup of tea. You just, whenever like you see your names pop up, or there's the preceptorship meeting, you just think, that comfort. Because I agree. So my role, we're quite, I wouldn't say we're a secluded team, because we work with loads of other teams in the building I'm in, but my team's like the only one in like the whole southeast of England doing what it does. So you do feel quite isolated in that regard, because you're like the only ones doing it, if that makes sense. And obviously with community work, a lot of lone working, which originally I thought I was actually going to hate, because I love the inpatient placements. But funny enough, I think I found my rhythm with this community job, and I really do like the break it gives you when you're in your car playing your music, playing on the podcast of Preceptorship podcast, literally, and I'm not lying, that's true.
I can totally relate.
You can just unwind a little bit, which I like. But the reason that the preceptorship has helped is because when you then speak to other band 5s who are in similar things like yourself, Ruthie, doing things that paving the way that no one else has done before, it just reminds you, because you're so much in your bubble at work, in that team, all of what comes with it, when you have that break away, it just opens your world back up again, and you're like,
exactly
right, okay, just grounds you, which I really appreciate, so you don't get lost in all the other bits your team comes with. So no, it's been massively helpful. Absolutely.
So that kind of links us on to, obviously, it's really great that you don't feel isolated and the preceptorship has helped you feel part of that family, but is there anything else that you've kind of got involved with, or that you found that's on offer that has really helped you feel part of the wider community, as in with Oxleas as a community, AHPs as a community, all these other kind of communities that are within one big trust? Is there anything else that you've been able to kind of join to help with that?
Well, I can't fault enough as the preceptorship and then the band 5 OT support group. So that, for anyone who doesn't know, that I think it's every 3 months, isn't it? And we all meet up, all the band 5 OTs, and we have a occupational therapist who's sort of an expert in their area, in their field, and they talk to us and show us different areas of the profession in Oxleas. And that has been just like with the preceptorship, a lifeline, because you can see people and you're learning about OT. not that it reignites your passion for OT, but you know when you get lost in sometimes the mundane of your job, and then you come back to this Band 5 meeting every 3 months and you're just like, oh, this is brilliant. And you guys always attend, which is lovely. So Felicity and Hannah, you're always there. So we can always have a giggle, and it's just fantastic. And it's that breakaway, and it's just reigniting your passion for why you're doing what you're doing. And what's lovely is, and I recommend this to anyone, we've made a little WhatsApp group, haven't we?
Yeah.
And everyone in the WhatsApp group is in the preceptorship as well. So you have that extra comfort and that connection and that family again of just having that base there, so you opened your world again, so you don't get so lost in all the bits that come with your everyday work. I think we've planned to go to the theatre soon, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
We're planning to go see a theatre.
Can we come?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
Chaperones.
Yeah, make sure we get there and back okay. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
That'd be great. Yeah.
When we get a date set, so we're planning a theatre trip and just doing things very OT, like meaningful activity outside of work.
OT,
We're really looking forward to that. So that's just been, I feel really lucky we've got that base actually.
Yeah. And I think it's, sorry.
No, you carry on.
I think it's something that will continue as well past that sort of Band 5. I don't know, if someone then goes to a Band 6 position or finishes AHP Preceptorship and goes to Band 6 beyond, or I think it's something that is so core and fundamental to our initial days and months of being a professional that it will continue. And I think it, I guess, almost goes back to that question of feeling isolated slightly, in that there is so much wealth of knowledge and advice that the other Band 5s have for your position. I think, Katy, you even gave me some great advice on our last support group. Did a little plug for you. And it really did encourage me. I think it was particularly around, you know, in your next post, you'll have like a greater understanding of X, Y, and Z. And so, I think, just again, reinforcing your points, just this support group, being intentional to be part of that group, I think is really an important thing for me.
You're like
not sort of
another's
shying away. Yeah, exactly. We are,
because we get it. We get it. We're like, I live that every day. I get that angst. I get that fear, and you understand it, which is that's why sharing it is just so helpful.
And every day isn't always, you know, sunshine and roses. We have our challenging days, so it's really nice that you've got that other level of being one another's cheerleader and empowering. It sounds like you empower one another, and also, you know, if people want to join in the social aspect, it's something that, you know, as we've mentioned COVID before, it's something that really got lost, is that building those connections with not only your team, but your wider profession. And actually they're really important. I mean, like, you regularly reflect, don't you, Felicity, that you were the social sec when you were in your team, and you know,
Band 5 social sec.
Hey, I love that.
You know, and when I first joined my team as a Band 5, I joined in December, and they'd already planned the Christmas party, and they'd booked me a place because they knew I was coming, and we went to the theatre, and to have that within the first few weeks with my team, that social aspect really helped. And I know it's not for everyone, but it's really nice that that's coming back, that there is the option to join in socially with one another as well. And that's another reason why, you know, linking into what other opportunities I know are there, we love organising AHP's Day.
Oh, yes.
Because we get to go and see so many of you.
Yeah.
Oh, that last AHP, well, I say last, it was my only one. It's the only one I've done. But I've still got the little Polaroid printout of us there, like the ice cream van, getting it, you know, I was meeting professionals at different sites in the trust that I wouldn't have gone to before. I'd never gone to Goldie Lee before. So I turned up there, and then it brings you back in again. You're like, that
family.
People I know and recognise. Like, hi, how are you? And just having that bit of fun. I think that's what I liked. That bit of fun.
Fun's important.
And that's what Patsy was like. She was like, we just need to have fun.
Yeah.
Like, let's just have fun. Like, everybody deserves just have an ice cream and just have a little chat. So that's what we like to bring, that sense of fun and
You know, you did. It was such a good day. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, I just feel really lucky that we got to be a part of it again. You just think how you almost pinch yourself that you get all these moments at the beginning of your career. Because one of the ladies who went to the last Band 5, she's like higher up, and she said, I never got this when I started out, and I do feel very lucky. Because especially speaking to some of my friends and other trusts that aren't anywhere near here but far away, and they don't have that, and I do feel a little bit sad because I almost feel spoiled because I've got all of this fantastic experience and opportunities given right at the beginning of your career, which is so exciting because you're like, I can really take that forward.
Yeah, and those bonds that you create at the start of your career will be with you for the rest of your career. Like, I still catch up with my old manager that was my manager when I was a Band 5, and like we see each other regularly for social events and stuff. So like they have still have such a huge impact on me because you're just, you're a baby when you're a Band 5, aren't you? And they like really support you and like the other Band 5s and stuff. So I really hope that the bonds that you have created will, continue, and it'll be so exciting for you, like eventually, in your career path, like where you will eventually go, and hopefully you still link up.
Absolutely.
And the NHS is a really small world.
Your
paths may cross again.
People from everywhere.
It's I've crossed paths with people that I not only went to uni with, but I was with in my first team that then moved away, and we've kind of went into separate trusts now, but our paths across people that are AHPs that I went to school with, senior school, and now we're linked on Twitter, and it is a small world. So it's really nice that you'll be able to pay this forward, when you go up through the ranks, and you want to start exactly because you will. But when you want to look at how you welcome a Band 5 into your team, hopefully this really positive experience for you will make you kind of shape how you welcome the future workforce.
Absolutely.
And it's all about paying it forward.
Yeah, that's right.
Should we get on to our favourite subject then?
Yes.
Preceptorship. That's second favourite.
Oh yeah, preceptorship.
What did you say first?
Okay. To be fair, when you were talking about how you combat challenges, the way I combat challenges is to bake and to eat, so it finds a way in every time.
So I guess obviously we've touched on a lot of it already, but just really want to hear like how you feel preceptorship has benefited you in that transition from student to newly qualified. So Ruthie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I think, again, I've mentioned it a bit before, but that structure has been a godsend. I think where my brain has been a bit scrambled in moments, and again, just a little bit overwhelmed, and I've found it hard to make sense of my thoughts or to articulate my thoughts or process my thoughts. Preceptorship has been a non-pressured structure that I've needed. So, whether that's from you guys, the fact that the AHP Preceptorship meetings are regular, knowing that the competencies, even you've sort of laid them out, whether it's online or in the booklet, they just make sense, they're all in their place, and sometimes my head isn't always in the right place and in place. So having that has been, again, sort of a real comfort to fall back on. It's given me guidance in how to keep progressing and actually get there. So,
Do you know, I didn't think of it like that until you said it's the structure. And that's what now you've mentioned that, I'm like, yes, that's what it is. Because at uni, and I don't know if people listening, they have that same experience. Uni, of course, is very structured. So you're in that rhythm, you're in that, you know what that is. And then that's, I think, one of the big worries when I qualified was thinking, I don't have, my seminar on that day, that structure anymore. You have to find it yourself because you're a newly qualified professional now. This is all down to you. That's what it felt like. So then having that preceptorship, it feels like you've got that bit of uni that I liked of the structure of, I'm quite... I like getting all my stationery to match, that type of person, getting all my books, very OT. So having like a portfolio to have, that for me excites me. I'm like, I can, organising it on my H drive on the system at work, organising it. I love that.
Yeah.
That just might just be me. I just find that really exciting. So you have that, like, you just feel like you're not so lost in the wind because it pins you in a nice way. You feel that structure grounds you, which I think you really do need. Might not be for everyone, I don't know, but I can certainly vouch. It has kept me on track, and it's reminded me as well my competency of where I am. So sometimes you're thinking, I've got to really, you have these big thoughts. I don't know if you're the same, where you feel like you're going to, run this big group and change loads of people's lives, which, this sounds very egotistical, I know, but that preceptorship, it grounds you of, remember, this is what you're achieving, so you'll get there, just take it slowly, and it just pulls you back down to earth a little bit again. So massively helpful, really, really has shaped my first few months in this job for sure.
Yeah. I think with the portfolio and the structure, like, some people really thrive on that structure, don't they? And they're like, yes, I love this portfolio, like, I love documenting and stuff. And then we do have a few that are, like, a bit overwhelmed with it. When they see it, they're like, oh my God, is this like uni again?
And that's what I sort of, to be fair, did feel,
So that's, again, really common that we hear. And I when I was at uni, I didn't really like the writing. I struggled with reflection and stuff like that. So I can completely understand why people see the portfolio and they're like, okay, I'm not even going to look at this. But that's why, because on reflection, when we hear preceptees, when they complete it, how big of an impact it's had, or when you're actually engaging with it, it has such a huge impact on your work and your confidence and your competence. That we really try to support you through that and give you lots of ideas and tips and how you can get on with it. Because initially, when we first launched this programme, we were kind of like, here's your portfolio, here you go. And then
we soon realised that actually
that's not the way to do it.
And we know the programme back to front, and we've been there, we've lived that Band 5 life. So that's why we really encourage everyone to have a one-to-one, especially initial one-to-one. We offer endless one-to-ones, but that initial one-to-one where we take the time to go through it and provide the reassurance, I think it's so important. So if you're listening and you've not had your one-to-one, why not book it in, please?
and anything in terms of, obviously, the meetings you spoke about, this community and feeling safe, which is great, but have you also enjoyed linking with the other AHPs and like learning about their profession? Because obviously you're OTs, and sometimes we can be very insular with our professions. And obviously you do your CPD within your professions, but have you enjoyed kind of widening your, I guess, knowledge of the other AHPs and what they do?
Absolutely. That's one of the things I loved with the monthly meeting, is that 5-minute little networking session before we get into it, because like you said, sometimes in a meeting you could have up to 50 people, and having that little networking moment where it might be 3 or 4 of you, you just get to meet so many different people, and that I personally love that. And speaking to, I haven't met many podiatrists before. Like, you're such an undervalued profession. Like, you need to pave the way with your feet, quite literally. And when there's like the odd podiatrist in the group in that mini network, and I'm like, and you just want to know so much about what that offers. And I love that. And then it reminds you that you're all this big, almost like an MDT, aren't you? You're this big multidisciplinary team. So that's what I loved, and absolutely meeting so many different professions, it's brilliant. I really enjoy that. Definitely with the meetings, I think having an opportunity to all completely mingle together is really, really positive. And also, like, where I work, we're community based, but we've obviously got our big sort of office building, and there's actually just so many different professions within there as well. And I'm still to hunt out whether there's some on the same meetings as me. I know there's a couple of OTs in the same building on different teams. I think there's some physios with the neuro. So I'm still to hunt them out, but I know they're in the same building as me.
We should do an intro. We should come over and do an intro with you guys.
We'll do an intro there. I think it's really nice when people pass on another in a corridor and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I recognise you, or I recognise your name. And
Yeah.
that's the other real benefit, is that not only by meeting other AHPs, but learning more about their profession. If you come across a patient who you think, I'm just not sure maybe what to do with them, or you think, this person needs a podiatrist. You know, is it a commission service? Can I refer? And is to give you that confidence to actually know, as you said, Katie, like that MDT are there, and we may be able to refer our patients and make our patient, you know, improve their lives, make it a more streamlined journey for them, which is ultimately what we want. By learning this earlier on in your career as well, and getting to meet people and get to know people's names and faces, and
exactly. And some of them are like, I work at this service, and I'd never heard that service before. And you're like, I'm going to note that, because if I need to ever refer, or it just opens up so many more doors, I think. So that's what's really particularly helpful.
And even if they point you into the direction of somebody else, like it expands that network of different stakeholders, which is so important as well.
It's definitely upskilling, isn't it? It does upskill you and your understanding of even your own profession, because you almost have to, every time I've spoken with other professions, it's almost forced me to like articulate what OT is better, and it sort of helps you advocate for your profession more as well.
Which
so
helps
it's
with that
helpful.
Professional identities, full circle.
There we go.
And just thinking, we haven't actually done the case studies session with you guys yet. We're due to do that in March, I think. So that's a really interesting session, because we get everyone to focus on the same case study and how their profession would address that particular case study. So
that's really
you'll learn loads within that meeting, and it always tends to be the podiatrist that are like, I didn't realise you did that. Like, okay, I'll take, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to refer for if I have anyone like housebound or pressure sores, you know, all of that. So it is great, and it is getting you used to that networking and stuff when you're band 5, because you don't kind of get taught any of that, or it's more like later in your career where they're like, you need to network, you need to make your connections, but as a band 5 you're just like, kind of just like, no, you don't need to worry about it now, but it's getting you comfortable with that.
Yes,
it really
and like
does.
introducing yourself like virtually is quite awkward, so the fact that you're getting used to that
and establishing the transferable skills, which is, I always bang on about transferable skills, because you don't realise the skills that you have are so transferable until later on. So it's also really nice to start learning that earlier on, and you seize those opportunities, because you never know when you're going to need them.
Yeah, that's so true.
Which is my top tip. Which brings me on to asking, what are your top tips? So do you have any top tips for people starting, maybe they're going to qualify this year, or they're qualified last year, like yourself, Katie, and they might be listening. Do you have any top tips for our new starters?
For me, my top tip would be open to where your first role takes you. And the reason why I say that is I'm like I said, I'm on the rotation, and where I'm at now, originally it wasn't in my top 3 when they sort of asked you in the interview, where do you like to go, and that's absolutely fine. And so I was a bit like, that's a little bit disheartened naturally, but actually it's maybe leading on from when you say transferable skills, there's so much that you didn't realise that role will offer you, because you didn't know what that team was before. When you get the interview, you don't know what it's going to offer. So don't discount it. If you get a role that isn't what you were hoping for, if you're on the rotation, I can promise you the amount you learn from it will guide so much of where you want to go next. And I thought it was going to push me back. I thought, but I didn't want to go down that route. But it's brought in so much more that I didn't realise I actually needed before I get to the next point. Does that make sense? Yes. So just almost put your hands back, go for the ride, and just see where it takes you, because you'll be hopefully very pleasantly surprised what you pick up along the way. So I think just lessen your grip. This is what I was like on how you want it to look, what you want your first role to be. And just go with it and see where it takes you. And I really do think you'll be quite pleasantly surprised on what comes up along the way.
That's really profound. And I really like it, because you're right, my first role, was not what I was expecting. I relocated, as Felicity said, I relocated, and I thought, I'll be there for a year.
Yeah.
And 12 years later,
That's so
I'm still here because
Exactly.
I went with the flow, and I was like, I know I've worked really hard throughout my degree to get a job.
Yeah.
I've now got this job.
Yes.
I want to enjoy it. And also, you can do this at any point in your career, but I feel like as a band 5, it's that real time where you can be like, I don't know what avenue I'm going to go down.
Exactly.
It's exciting.
And
It's
that you've
such an
got
exciting
that
time.
exciting freedom at that
Yes.
point. So just go with it and explore. That's exactly, I completely agree.
And don't disregard community, isn't it?
Yes.
I think a lot of people are like, no, I don't want to go into community.
Yes.
And
That's so
actually,
true. I
when
don't
you,
know why.
and then when you're in it, you're like, this is actually great.
Yes.
Like, there's so many positives to it. Obviously, there's
Loads of opportunity.
lots of lone working, but actually, like you said, there's lots of reflective time. You know, we always say it's like driving from patients' homes. You can reflect on that experience that you've had before you go to the next one.
You can unwind a little bit. You get that downtime, which
Yeah.
I didn't realise I was going to really appreciate until you're actually a qualified professional.
Yeah.
And then having that break, even leaving the office to drive to a
Yeah.
patient's home, you can just whack up your music
Yeah.
and it's bliss, and you can just decompress, and then you're in a better space to help the person when you turn up.
Yeah.
So community, don't dismiss
Yeah.
it. I was originally like, I want
Definitely.
inpatient, because that's where I felt you learn loads.
Yeah.
You learn loads in the community. More skills I actually put credit to. So
A bit more autonomous, aren't you? Because
You
you're
are.
out there doing it yourself. by
Exactly.
yourself, so.
Yeah.
exactly, that's right.
You're really in at the deep end with your time management as well.
Yeah.
And, even things like if a patient lives, where they are, in the borough or wherever you're going, you've really got to plan so that you're not driving, like, all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's all those, again, transferable skills that you just don't realise that you're picking up.
Exactly, absolutely.
Any top tips from you, Ruthie?
Yeah, a bit less of a practical one, but I think, because that is, honestly, I think that is the best advice, truly, what you've just said. I think I really needed to hear that, actually, when I started. That's so beneficial. But I think almost off the back of that is, I think as a student going into the professional world, again, not so practical, but really, truly knowing that you do bring value. It's easy to, I could probably maybe thinking for myself more, but I do think generally students, it's easy to sort of put yourself on a bit of a back burner, particularly maybe if you didn't get the rotation or the job area that you necessarily wanted or already felt confident in from a previous placement. It is quite easy to fall into that space of, what do I bring that is different to what these experienced people bring? How can I contribute? I don't know the lingo. Like, what am I really doing? Or hopefully by the end of the Band 5, this rotation, I'll have something to bring. But it's really, stripping that back and knowing, and again, it sounds a bit fluffy, but truly you do bring value.
Absolutely.
And there is a lot that professionally and personally you will bring to the team around you. It's definitely something I wish I knew and really sort of acknowledged before starting my first role.
And that's something that we're really passionate about, aren't we? We really want to empower Band 5s to feel that they have an impact or input within their teams, like, especially when you're a fresh pair of eyes. We always say this, you can come in and say, make suggestions, or maybe you've seen something differently on placement which worked really well. Why not make that suggestion? Look at some service improvement. Don't just feel like you're Band 5, you can't do anything. There's so much value that you can bring and input. So
absolutely
amazing top tips, guys.
Really profound top tips. Thank
quite
you
zen
both.
now. I feel like I've mastered the universe now. I just float out of here.
I guess just to end our amazing podcast today is just, would you, I think we might know the answer to this, but would you recommend preceptorship and also working within Oxleas as a newly qualified AHP? And is there anything else you wanted to add to anything that you've discussed today?
I think it's a big chunky yes from both of us. Absolutely. And obviously we can't speak for every trust and every thing in the whole country or world, but for, I'll speak for myself, I know you'll say the same, but really Oxleas is just a fantastic trust truly to work for. And preceptorship, just get stuck in, even if you feel nervous, even if it feels intimidating, maybe you don't like the structure and that's not really your natural comfort zone. Know that you will be able to do this will be upskilling you, you are supported.
Yes.
There's also no pressure, take a chill pill, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, you got it.
And but Oxleas is just fab, preceptorship is brilliant, and
No, I agree, and I think the reason why I would particularly recommend Oxleas is before getting this role, I was a little bit apprehensive working for the NHS, I won't lie, because I know there's big burnouts and I know it's pressures that, come with it. And I was worried that I was going to start and then feel really on my own and thinking, this is awful, this isn't going to be for me. And genuinely, from the moment of that interview, when I met Patsy, and that I was saying to you before, that was one of the reasons why I picked Oxleas, because it was just her approach to what OT was going to bring and just all of Oxleas. She was such a good face for it. And I'm not just saying this because I know this is being recorded, but every single stage I have felt so supported and genuinely having avenues of where I can take if I feel stuck or you just feel really sort of celebrated, don't you? You feel really like you guys are like, oh, you're band 5s, like you're really excited for us, and that feels lovely because you come away and you're like, oh, there's work that's excited to have me. This profession is excited to want me, and that feeling's lovely. You don't feel like you're treading on people's toes or a nuisance like I did as a student more so. So Oxleas says with the band 5 support group, the preceptorship, having the avenues there in place, like you both, if you ever need anyone. If you're someone who's a little unsure when they leave uni what your career's going to look like, if you want that support and that comfort zone space, absolutely, I couldn't recommend Oxleas enough. And hopefully we'll see you around. That would be great. Say hi.
Well, you never know. In future, you guys could be their preceptors.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, because
that would be brilliant.
That's what's eventually going to happen, guys. You're going to get your band 6.
We'll be
and you're
listening
going to
to this back in a few years. And
oh my God.
we were band 5.
You'll highlight this podcast to your preceptees. I just want to say thank you so much for talking to us today, bringing your enthusiasm, your candour, and just being you, because you're both honestly a breath of fresh air.
Oh,
so it's been
so
so nice to talk to you about preceptorship and about your experience and what's brought you to where you are today. I always love hearing people's stories about what brought you into the profession. I think it's really interesting. Any AHP profession, I think we're a workforce that's absolutely massive, but we're not known so much about, especially, in the media. So when you hear that people have chosen this as a job, I always like to know, what was the thing that started that and what brought you here. So thank you for today.
No, thank you. It's been lovely. I honestly, genuinely, and it reignites that passion again for it all. So
absolutely.
Can't wait to get into those biscuits. And here we go.
We should say, if there's anyone listening, though, that is thinking about an AHP role or is a student at the moment, is qualifying and wants to know more, look at our website. We've got loads of details. And if you are maybe working for a trust that doesn't offer preceptorship and you'd like to find out more, get in contact with us through the webpage and we will gladly have a chat to you.
See how we can help.
Yeah. So thanks for listening.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much. You're both wonderful.
Thanks.
Crack open the party ring.